So what made you decide to come back and pursue acting, and what was your plan of action at that time?
So I had been wanting to act my whole life, right? And so, like I said before, in '98, when I came to California, I was in Orange County. A lady had told me I could rent a room from her, one of my mama's people that she knew. And she didn't tell me she was a little crazy. She didn't tell me that part. And so
She was a little...
she went all the way right there.
Okay.
And so I was living with her and renting a room out, but she was pretty much like taking all my money. And I was young, 19, you know, and my husband was my boyfriend at the time. He came out, he was like, this don't make no sense. You living way out here, nowhere near Hollywood. You ain't dealing with no acting. You working 2 jobs. You struggling. We need to go back to North Carolina, save up because it's cheaper, and then move to LA in a year. And so I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And so we moved back to Greensboro instead of Eden. We went to Greensboro. And that 1-year plan turned into 5 years, right? We ended up having a baby and got married, and we had all these new responsibilities and jobs and things. And I really convinced myself I can't have that dream anymore, right? You know, if you're young and you have a baby and you're from a small town, it happens all the time. And they're like, okay, now what you do is get a job and y'all get married and have a house and live happily ever after. This is your life. And I convinced myself that that was it.
Okay.
And so then one day I woke up and it felt like an earthquake had happened in Greensboro. I felt my bed shake and I heard a voice that sounded like thunder. And the voice said to me, this is not the life I planned for you. And it scared me. And I was like, okay, Lord, I got on my knees and I started praying. I was like, okay, now God, if this is you speaking to me, I need you to show me a sign today, because I thought I was losing my mind. And I told my husband what happened. I think he thought I was losing my mind too. And later that day we were in the car going to the mall, and on the radio, the DJ, his name was Buster Brown, he came on and he was like, hey, I'm holding auditions. I got a new TV show. I'm looking for a female co-host. And I went crazy in the car because no auditions ever happened.
Okay.
And I was like, that's my sign. I asked God to give me a sign today. So I went to that audition and I booked that show. And so that was my first audition, you know, for anything really other than theater, doing TV. And so I did that and learned how to produce and host, and did that for about a year. And then told my husband, okay, now it's time for us to go back to LA. And so that's how we ended up going.
So the show that you booked, that you were hosting, that was in Greensboro.
In Greensboro.
Okay, so you kind of were preparing yourself doing that. But let's talk about this voice from God. So because you know, people say, and even you say this, like I'll you know, watch some of your clips, and you know, God told me blah blah blah, or not blah blah blah, but you know, God told me this, that, or whatever. And I'm always thinking, like, I know everyone has a different relationship with God or whoever they believe in.
Right.
And I'm always wondering, is it like a voice on the inside, or is it like in your situation you were like,
that voice
was very loud and
like
clear?
Thunder.
Okay.
It was the scariest thing I've ever heard.
Okay.
Enough to shake you, right? He had to get my attention, and that's how he did it. But the voice of God comes in different ways, right? When my mama was sick, she had ALS. And so in her last year, she couldn't really project her voice. In her last 6 months, she really couldn't talk at all. We'd have to read her lips, or she'd be at a whisper. And I would go home and be with her to, you know, help take care of her. And so she had like a long ranch style home. And so she was in her bedroom. Her hospital bed was there because she was also not able to move. And I would be in her office on the computer, which is on the other side of the house. And so many times I would hear clear as day her call my name. And I would go in there and be like, Mama, did you call me? And she would look at me like, how am I gonna call you? But sometimes what God will do, not to scare you, he'll use a voice that's familiar.